improvements that may be considered over time. This is a good chance to point out that this comprehensive plan requires cooperation and collaboration. The city's not going to be able to do everything in this plan. It's going to require cooperative efforts with KDOT, Johnson County, school district, a number of different players who have an impact on quality of life and services provided to residents. So the Bike and Pedestrian Plan builds upon the Parks and Open Space Master Plan that identifies a lot of potential alignments for trails and really tries to build that robust network so that there's full mobility throughout the community. The Community Facilities and Services Plan talks about schools, local government, public safety as key components to quality of life, those services that support residents and businesses in what they're trying to do. The key message with the Community Facilities Plan is it's not terribly different from the existing community facilities when you look at the map, but the text outlines a number of policies about how all of these different service providers can be coordinated with the city in how they make decisions about their facilities and services. The Parks, Open Space, and Environmental Features Plan, the foundation for this chapter is the Park and Recreation Master Plan. The intent of the comprehensive plan is not to replace those documents or that thinking. There's been a lot of energy put into those. Rather, it's to provide context for broader decision making so that things aren't done in a vacuum, but they're done in a collaborative manner. So the Parks and Recreation Plan builds off of the master plan that's already in place, and we layer on top of that key environmental features. When there is new residential subdivision, how should we be treating the wetlands and floodplain areas? What kinds of buffers should we be doing? What about trees and the preservation of the trees in the area? So it describes a number of key components on the environmental side that should be considered as new development occurs. One of the recurring themes that we heard on early in the process is Gardner needs to tackle image and identity on two fronts. One, we have to determine locally what we are and who we want to be. And two, we have to get that message out to the rest of the region. So the image and identity plan talks about different ways that from a physical standpoint, you can improve the community character through gateways, physical improvements to key corridors, commercial development that reflects a positive front door and image when people come into the community, and also the non-physical, the image and the branding. How do you get the message out to the rest of the region and make yourself a desirable place for young families, businesses, industry, all of those potential investors. The sustainability framework, there's a lot of sustainability-based thinking throughout the plan and other chapters. So the sustainability framework highlights those and then talks about a couple topics related to renewable energy and local food sources, things that are really becoming stronger in the planning world that can enhance quality of life and local economy. And then finally, the implementation chapter walks through ongoing tasks that can be done on a day-to-day basis, short-term tasks like making sure that your zoning ordinance is in line with comprehensive plan recommendations. We always tell communities the two most profound tools you have for implementation are your zoning ordinance and your capital improvement program. If those two things are not in line with the comprehensive plan, you have a real uphill battle on your hands. So the implementation program lays out short, medium, and long-term actions that you can build upon over time to maximize the benefit of the plan to the community. And finally, it highlights potential funding sources. Some of this may have to be done proactively by the community, whether it's through regular annual budgeting, certain kind of development incentives that you use to get the initial investment that builds energy over time. But there's a whole lot of regional, state, and federal grant programs out there too that allow you to implement things like bike trails, environmental protection, economic development, so that this plan starts to paint that palette for you and gives staff some of the tools to go after those funds. It should be pointed, a lot of times people say, why are we spending money on a comprehensive plan? This document gives you the best chance at procuring future grant program funding. The first requirement in a lot of applications is the improvement you're looking to fund consistent with your comprehensive plan. If you can check yes on that box, you're already ahead of some of the communities going after the same money for that kind of improvement. So in an ideal world, this plan pays for itself pretty quickly. So that is the really quick run through on the plan. A couple things that were discussed during the open house. I'll start with some of the concerns or issues that people talked about. When we receive the comments, we want to report them to you so that you're aware of what the conversations were. A lot of these, quite frankly, people had a comment for me, and it's already addressed in the plan, so it's nothing that warrants changes. I'll talk about a couple potential changes in a second, but first the concerns. One resident and business owner wanted to make sure that all of the attention wasn't just given to businesses east of downtown, that there are certainly businesses on the west side of town along US 56 that warrant some attention as well. One resident submitted comments about ADA accessibility in public areas and civic facilities, making sure that that's a priority as development occurs in the future. Also talked about was expanding transit throughout the community. The plan talks about the Johnson County service, but also complementing that with ideas for local mobility. An interchange at Moonlight was talked about, and this is something that the plan addresses. It had been studied. It's certainly on the radar for the long term. The short-term planning doesn't necessarily warrant planning around it because it faces a lot of challenges, but it's addressed in the plan accordingly. There was one comment about the Johnson County Adult Education Program and how that can be a resource for continuing education in the Community Facilities chapter. So a couple potential changes. One person mentioned on page 77, it's the kickoff to the transportation section. It's a photo of the diverging diamond interchange southwest of Gardner. And her comment was, if we're going to use that image, we should highlight and give it some annotation about what it is, because it was a significant infrastructure improvement on behalf of KDOT, and it's the only type of interchange like that that they have in the state, so it's worth noting. Her other comment was, it's also just a picture of a truck out in the middle of nowhere. So I think we'll work with staff on this. My recommendation would be to pick a more engaging photo, but we'll certainly talk about that and see what the best option is. On page 79, the change that I'd like to discuss is on page 79, but if I can draw your attention quickly to page 85. And this brings together some of the conversations that have been happening tonight already. The area around the Gardner Road interchange with I-35 was the subject of the discussion tonight regarding the realignment of 191st Street. During the planning process, we had put a potential roadway alignment in here. It's since been changed to this blue oval to imply an area that requires further analysis, and that's what we were talking about regarding the platting of the right-of-way easement. So on the roadway improvement plan, it shows up as more of an abstract concept of an area that needs further analysis. However, on page 79, if you look at the same portion of the community, there is a new minor arterial shown in the dashed line that implies a specific alignment. To be consistent with what's shown on page 85, we're recommending that on page 79, this specific alignment be taken off and just show more of a corridor type improvement, and it can also be indicated that it's subject to further analysis. So it would be consistent internally with other portions of the plan, and it would reflect the direction of the discussion earlier tonight as well. And finally, on page 96 in the community facilities section, we talk about lifelong learning. This is an opportunity to mention the Johnson County Adult Education Program if staff and the Plan Commission see fit. I think it would just be a simple statement that they should be considered a resource in the effort to provide lifelong learning in adult education. So with that, I'm happy to field any comments or questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick question on the comments you received. Will they be just summarized and shared?
Yeah, we collected them through comment cards, which I have, so we'll make sure that we'll type them up and we'll send them to staff as kind of an official record of what was collected during the open house.
Great. Any questions or additional staff clarification this evening? Have additional questions, I would entertain a motion for this item. Oh, wait.